And let's talk about cryptocurrencies because of time, and I also have to take a couple of questions that have been sent in here. That is arguably the biggest story from the CBN in recent times, right? And by the time that secular was put out, restricting Nigerian financial institutions, from partaking or trading or facilitating transactions in cryptocurrency. It made a big uproar, and that is also because in the last year, Nigeria was recorded as the second largest Bitcoin market, in the world. Let me ask you this. As somebody who works in the Central Bank of Nigeria, did that terrify you?
It didn't. It's expected.
That
And
Nigeria will be the second largest?
In cryptocurrency
Yes.
activities. Well, I will not. I'm not too surprised at that.
But was it terrifying?
It's not terrifying, but what is important is the area within our control. Central Bank is the regulatory authority of the financial institutions, and we have different players in that financial institutions, and we also have different interest groups. While we are looking at the high risk, players in that market, you also look at the conservative and risk averse people, millions of depositors that have their funds in the banking system. You don't allow a proportion of 5-10% of high risk takers to call. That's what we call systemic risk. And our macroprudential rules is that for you to look at this systemic risk early enough, we have what in the system, central bank we call the early warning system, which you signal when you see a bubble coming. You quickly take precautions. And bubbles, examples of bubbles is when you see, asset prices or a particular event taking up, exponentially above the fundamentals of those economies. I don't see how we'll be excited in an instruments or investment portfolios that yield so much return without any underlying asset, without any underlying economic activity. That negates our fundamentals requirements.
You say that there is no underlying economic activity, but there are people who would beg to differ.
Yeah.
I think it was on the coin desk I was reading about different traders that had that decided that the best way for them to be able to trade with people, and I'm not talking about traders, I'm talking about importers and exporters who feel that the challenges of getting access to forex is a lot.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy involved in moving from one financial institution to the other. I can do this with the Bitcoin, with whoever I am trading with, to send me my goods, and I pay with that. And there is no bureaucracy, there is no hang-ups. There are people who would say that is a way of contributing to the economy, and that is how they pay. There are several businessmen who actually said that is what they do. Okay, so in that case, would you still say it does not contribute, especially when the Security and Exchange Commission has said that this can be classified as an asset?
I must tell you that substantial part of investors in bitcoins do not go there for transactional purpose.
What do they go there for?
They go there for the yield, for the returns on their investment, and so they are there for profit. They are not there because I want to keep Bitcoin for transactional purpose, because I want to buy a car in the US, I'll use Bitcoin to buy for it. The transactional exposure of Bitcoin instruments as a means of payment is still limited, but the returns is what people are looking at, and that's what I'm also trying to emphasize here. Number one, these are private individuals' decisions, and central bank has nothing against that. You can decide to put your money anywhere you want to put it, but when it's becoming a systemic risk to the rest of other people that are not in that line of business, which are larger, far larger than those that are in that type of business, then you start taking precaution. Because when the system comes to collapse, it doesn't look at who are the causes.
It affects everybody.
Drivers. It affects everybody. And so the central bank gave the only reason why you see people taking deposit to the bank is because the banks have central bank license. And if anything happens, they said central bank has given us assurance that non-depositor will lose his fund even in the period of crisis. And we kept to that. There's a moral hazard attached to that. But we kept to that. So if we are going to sustain that, then we must be very, very proactive in addressing anything that we think will jeopardize that stability. And that's the decision Central Bank has taken. We
Let me-
didn't stop it.
Yeah,
But
people can still do their
they
peer-to-peer,
can do.
transactions,
Yes.
basically. But you're just not, going to allow your financial institutions
Yes.
get mired in that. But then, the question also comes with, are you trying to fight the inevitable? Because this is the future. Cryptocurrency
Yeah.
is the future. Digital currency is the future.
Yeah.
It is definitely something that you cannot fight, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
It might not happen immediately, but it will happen.
Yeah.
So, why are you fighting the inevitable?
You see, the central bank is not just reading about cryptocurrency in newspapers or WhatsApp or whatever. They are doing a lot of studies, research collaborations with other agencies that are involved in this. And central bank staff have done a lot of studies and investigation in this, including myself that is speaking to you. So we are not doing it based on sentiment. We're doing it based on empirical analysis, sound data sources, granular data, and seeing what these developments are. I'm happy that you mentioned that we're the third, or some people say second investors in this and stuff like that. Tell me, compare the Nigerian economy to the larger economies that are doing this. What are the basic economic fundamentals that will make us be the third or the second in the world to be driving this, or based on what fundamentals in the Nigerian economy?
It's trade, not necessarily holders. I mean, we're not even top 5 holders.
Yes.
It's just the trade.
That's what I'm
aspect of
saying.
it.
So the trade
You know,
aspect
so-
of it is what is. I was telling you that is early warning signs that is telling
But
you
I
that
asked you a
there's a
question and
bubble
you have
going
not
on.
answered me,
What was
because
the
the question is, this is the future.
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
continue
Oh,
fighting
good,
the
good, good.
inevitable?
It is. We are not fighting the inevitable. We also recognize that this is the trend the world is going. We are also aware of the digital ledger. We are aware of the blockchain. We're exploring the beneficial effects of that, including in terms of assisting monetary policy and liquidity management. We are aware of that. We are aware of central banks that have issued virtual currency, including the Fed and other major central banks. But they issue those currencies, so they have control over that. They have the algorithm of those currencies.
So is the CBN planning to do something like that? Are
Not
you
now,
looking
not
at
now.
the digital currency?
We're already digital.
I'm
What is
talking
going on?
about
Online banking,
no,
they're all
not virtual.
digital.
I'm talking about, you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Cryptocurrencies,
When
digital
we
currencies.
get- when
because
we-
you have China, you have they are working on having digital. In fact,
Yeah.
they've started doing something like that.
Yeah.
You have the US working on something like that as well. You have the ECB. In fact, Christine Lagarde, has talked about the fact that as much as he wills against that, because a lot of central banks, you're not alone. Central
Yes.
banks all over the world
Yeah.
are not on board with cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
So you're not alone in that. But they're all working towards putting out theirs that they can control.
Yes.
Because, like I said, this is the future. And I'm asking if the CBN has this sort of, plans as well, knowing that you cannot really fight the inevitable. It's either you're ready to play or you are left behind. So as opposed to, we're banning this and all that, what else are you doing on your own part to make sure Nigeria is not left behind?
Yeah. That's we'll come onto that platform on a very sound competitive background, in the sense that we'll have to have a very proper understanding of the dynamics of that activities. Don't forget that the role of an individual or a trader is different from that of the role of a regulator. So there are different perspectives. You can just take your risks and go on board and try. If you don't, you pull out. The regulator doesn't have that privilege. So you have to look at it from that perspective, but to recognize that this is where the world is going. Yes, we are part of that, and we understand that, yes, this is going on globally, and also within the blockchain and the anti-money laundering and all other organizations, they're also looking at ways to, even within the same algorithm, to control that process. If regulatory institutions have access to that control instruments, yes, why would they not go into it? Because if it is going to be beneficial to their economy. But I also want you to look at the underlying activities. How is that beneficial to our current realities in terms of driving growth, creating jobs, reducing poverty?
It actually is creating jobs, if you're talking about that, because there are a lot of young people who are into this. But I also do know that
sitting in their
I
bedrooms
also do
and
know
making
that
money?
oh yeah, there are a lot of people who sit in their bedrooms and make money.
And
as
make
young
money. So how
people.
is that creating
Yes. It is
output
creating,
in the domestic
it's creating
economy?
jobs. Well, they have disposable income
if
to
they make
invest
all
in
these
the
monies-
in the economy.
Yes.
That is
if
a
they make
given.
all these monies, what do they buy if they don't have it in their economy?
They buy things in the economy.
And so that's what is going to be impacting
So-
on the prices
so-
levels that I'm telling
so,
you.
So at the end of the day, you cannot say that this is not creating jobs or it's not doing anything, because you probably have to sit down with people who are doing it to know whether it is doing that at all before you draw your
We
conclusion.
know.
I don't know if you've
We're-
done
we're
that.
having those
but I want to,
statistics.
but I want to ask this, because one of the reasons the central bank gave for cryptocurrency ban or restriction is the fact that there's a lot of illegal activities and illicit funds, money laundering, and things like that go on. There is no process of payment that is devolved of that.
That's true.
So you cannot just demonize cryptocurrency because, well, it's new and you don't totally see how you can regulate or monitor it. It does not mean that people do not carry out criminal activities with other forms of payment.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I said it in the beginning. Central bank did not ban cryptocurrency. We don't even have the
You don't have the
powers
powers
or
to
the
do so.
instruments or
Yes.
the to even ban it. So we are not banning it. But like I explained to you, what is important to us is where we regulate, the sector we regulate, and the interest of the operators, the depositors in that sector. And I gave you a good example of when the bubble burst, then everybody
Then
suffers
everybody
for it.
suffers it.
Yes. So
Okay.
we don't ban it. Anybody that wants to trade in
Can go
crypto
ahead and do
can
what they
go
want
and
to
trade.
do.
But the
Can do their
exchanges
peer-to-peer
will not,
trade.
bring that risk into our financial system, such that other players in the system who are not as risk, prone as those that are going to it. So
Will
everybody has
suffer
his
it. But
business decision.
last question on cryptocurrencies. Do you think that the instability and uncertainty that surrounds the naira presently, the different exchange rates, difficulty in accessing forex, the inflation and all that, have probably led more people into, can I hold my money in cryptocurrencies? At least it's devoid of all of these other issues. So do you think that has contributed? And if it has, is that not a failing of the central bank itself?
Instead, I think it is even more risky for you to go and put your money in cryptocurrency as a store of value than put it in naira, because you saw how cryptocurrency crashed overnight by over how many
it hasn't
percent, and
stable
people
for a
lost,
minute now. It hasn't stable for a minute,
people
and it's
lost
kept going
their
up.
money. Substantially lost that, because, you
Institutions are
see,
getting cryptos
it
now.
is
So
a
it's making
different
it
thing
a
if-
standard. We have institutions buying. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it was Tesla that just announced buying millions of cryptos. The different institutions that are
Yeah,
also
and see,
buying.
you see, it's good that our guys or the operators in this market to be also very smart. We've seen a lot of central bank is an institution that has existed for years. So we have data, we have analysis that have been done over the years. So we know what happened in 1923, 1947, which the younger ones or those that are into this just came up this 25 years ago, and they are thinking this is the kill or this is the millennium age or these are the supersonic guys that are making investment. These things are not new. They've happened before. These investors that we are seeing bringing 1.6 billion could be playing a market trick. And they'll come in, bring in that billion, everybody rushing in, the prices go up, they dispose of and pull out, and everybody collapse, and they make their gain. We've seen it before. So if
that
we are
happens in
telling
the
you,
stock market as well.
yeah, so yes,
happens
so
in the
we've
stock
seen it. So if
market
we are
as
giving
well.
you caution, you should believe that it's like when you see your mom and you tell your mom, "Oh, mom, you're old school." You say, "My God, we're also babes like you when we're younger."
But
And we've
sometimes,
seen this.
sometimes mom
know?
fights technology, and you're like, "Well,
No, we are not fighting
this is it."
technology. We are very much embracing technology. We're embracing
Let
fintech
me
and
ask you the
everything.
question that
Yes.
I have here, so that we can wrap up. Edwin from Dede says, I appreciate this. I need the CBN to pay more serious attention to fighting the hyperinflation currently eroding the middle class of our country, rather than dissipating so much energy fighting corruption that refuses to lose its stranglehold on our country's jugular. And then he went again to say, I really can't comprehend the rationale behind the CBN's policy of lending humongous credit facilities to only farmers at the detriment of industrialists and manufacturers. I think there's an answer to that already. About
Yes, the money we give to the manufacturing is 1 trillion. The farmers is how many billions? So it's not an issue. We agree with him in terms of
The
looking at
hyperinflation.
inflation and then addressing that inflation. Month to month, inflation has been going at less than 0.5%. So I don't call that hyperinflation. Hyperinflations are inflation numbers that triple over a very short period of time. So we're not in the hyper level rate. But
I
like
like
I
how
said,
people in governments can
yes.
be very positive about the economy, while there are people
Because we have
who
the
are,
numbers.
You have the numbers, but there are people
we
who
have the
cannot
forecast.
access food,
Yes.
and they're like, "What are you talking about? That doesn't affect me." You say it's not terrible. I think that we're living
No,
in
I
the
didn't
worst
say it's not
times.
terrible. I said it's terrible, and it's a concern. I'm not waving that away.
Okay. All right, sir. And I think that on that note, we should be drawing the curtain, on this conversation. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
very
coming
much
on and
for
being a
it.
part of it. Stay with Classic FM 94.3 Abuja, the station that plays every song you know.